with your hosts Dennis Mays, Tyler Stewart, and Josh Gibbs. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also visit us at www.kyxfiles.com. And now, on to our show.
At all.
Do you think, considering that, like, down there, the more south you get, the more interesting the architecture gets.
Right.
Do you think that there's something to that? I mean, you go the farther south into those places you go, and especially going into like the ancient cultures, dude, they weren't just building little like towns and like hovels. They were building fucking pyramids in the jungle, which
right.
I can't imagine being easy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Do you think that there's something to that, considering that you're a person that makes things, appear in difficult places? Not cocaine.
No, I mean, that makes sense. The thing with, so that's where me and a friend of mine at work actually had a conversation similar to this.
Yeah.
And he's Mexican. He was going to be on the show eventually.
Nice.
And he was asking what I thought about like the pyramid stuff and aliens, because there's pyramids all over.
Yeah.
And my thought on it is, it's rather insulting to the people that built the stuff to assume they couldn't have built it. You know what I mean? Like, you're taking the talent out of their hands and putting it in something supernatural. There's a theory out there that all of those structures are much, much, much older than we thought. And like, the Egyptians didn't actually build the pyramids, that they found them.
All right. Yeah.
The same with the pyramids in South America and all that. And the thought behind it is that there was like a cataclysmic event that kind of boomed everybody back into another Stone or Bronze Age.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, more realistic than aliens came down and showed them how to stack rocks, because that doesn't make a fucking bit of sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's hard to get behind. That's for sure.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense, because there's no outcome to it to where it makes sense.
Yeah. What would be the point? I do this all the time with all of these theories. I always skip straight to that. What's the point? Why would they do it?
Yeah. And that's the way you have to do it. You got to look at the end result.
Yeah.
And work backwards and see if it makes sense. So I think that there's a possibility that something like that happened. Every single culture has a great flood story.
Yeah.
So what if there was a cataclysmic event that really did push everybody back to a Bronze or a Stone Age, and we had people with so much more technology prior to that?
Maybe, I mean, that shit can happen. Yeah. I think, especially if you're already, if you're pre-industrial, there's no automation whatsoever. Everything is manually done. You're pre-industry. You don't even have rudimentary machines. And somebody comes along, or something comes along and does something like that. An asteroid hits the ocean or something. Not enough to kill a planet, but enough to set everything back.
Yeah.
I don't see that as being out of the question. Yeah.
Right. Especially if it was something that, geographically speaking, there was a downfall of people that were maybe higher up on the intelligence or wealth or whatever levels. Like, if the event caused it to where anybody that lived in this region was wiped out, and maybe the lesser knowledgeable, the less smart, the undereducated survived because they weren't in this area. Like, say, like, if waterfront property was always something for the wealthy, the intelligent, the rich, or whatever, and the floods happened and killed all of them, then we're left with all the Highlanders.
Okay. Yeah.
And, and then we've got all this stuff and they don't know how it's made.
See, that makes sense to me.
Right.
Yeah. And I've always marveled at I mean, and they still believe there's still structures down in South America that haven't been discovered yet.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, there's
sure.
still structures that are just undiscovered. And it's like when I look at it and I look at the actual geographic location of those structures, I can't help but to be like, God, these people were such badasses that they literally built this shit in like probably the most difficult place possible, and they made it look easy because these structures are absolutely like. Let me pull up a couple real quick and show people, because if anybody's out there is not familiar with these, uh, then oh my god, you're missing out, because this ain't. I mean, this ain't just like, hey, we're piling up some rocks and we're, I tell you what, I'm just gonna share my screen because I don't feel like going through the whole thing of trying to get the pictures or whatever. You guys see this?
Yeah.
Check out this stuff, man. Like that. That is not just, hey, we're just gonna pile up some rocks. That is
Right.
geometric.
Yeah.
Like it has symmetry. It was planned and built.
Right.
These folks were not, they weren't just throwing some mud and sticks together. They were, these were architects. These were a laboring people that built
Yeah.
these.
They were cutting and forming stone.
Yeah. I mean, look at this. I love this too. If you look it out, like look at the like the comparisons and whatnot.
Right. And the thing about it is yeah, they all look alike, and they're people try to say that aliens came down and told them, but it doesn't take long to figure out a triangle is a strong form.
Yeah.
But I always I was just like thinking this too. It's like, okay, is there ever a possibility that they could have made this the structure, like think of um like a sundial, have a top
Yeah.
point and then a shadow casts down. Don't you think they could have mimicked the shadow and stuff and made a pyramid out of that? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, everybody's like, oh man, like it's so symmetrical and this, that, and the other thing. Like, there's primitive ways to actually make it pretty accurate if you follow it. I
I mean, do
wouldn't
you guys see
say
this picture too? I'm gonna leave it up on there.
Yeah.
But no, what Tyler's saying though, oh yeah, that's kind of my thought exactly. It's like
they use what they have.
they use what they have and they just excel. Some of the synchronicities are interesting. Like that one, the comparison of those three with the very similar doors that I want to say similar, but they look the same to me. I'm not a builder, you know what I mean? I'm sure Josh could probably point out like a lot of stuff with it, but
No,
I'm not a builder, like,
no, I know exactly what you're going with right there. And it okay, so yes, they're incredibly similar.
but is it out of the question that they were done by the same people? Maybe they were worldly people. Maybe they were able to travel.
That's kind of what I
Yeah.
was going to get at is if the events did happen, what if they were seafaring people and they had vessels that
Yeah.
they could get out? But one of the things you got to realize too is that there's like an unconscious thing that happens with humans, especially anybody that's in art or design, right? And it's called the golden ratio.
Okay.
Right. So the golden ratio is what causes things like that symmetrical entrance to make sense.
Okay. I don't think I think I'm familiar with this, but I don't know.
Let's see here. I tell you what, let me share my screen.
Okay. I'm sorry. I love this shit. Like this
Right.
stuff's so interesting to me.
Okay. So you see, this right here is the golden ratio, right?
Okay.
Okay. The golden ratio is this loose spiral that occurs that we put in everything we do. And you can see where you've got the small, and then everything grows by thirds, right?
Okay.
We do this naturally because it looks right with everything.
I
Like
wonder if this is similar
people,
to the
people are
rule
the
of
golden
thirds
ratio.
that my wife talks about a lot.
It's very similar, very similar. So if you look here at this one right here, so I can pull this up, this is all part of the golden ratio. It just exists, and we use it constantly. We've used it everywhere. So the 3 pyramid windows has the same ratio as the Colosseum here. You know, has the same ratio as the portions of the side of a pyramid, as the human face, as the seashell, as our ear. You know, it's pretty wild how it works.
That is interesting.
But it's one of those things that it just exists in nature, and people see it without knowing they're seeing it, and they like it.
Okay.
Let's see if I can find some more just on the golden ratio here.
That is fucking fascinating.
Yeah, see,
this is not what I thought I understood at all. This I'm literally learning right now.
Right.
Wow.
Well, this article is going to say all kinds of dumb stuff trying to get us to it. Right here. See, like this painting, this is what I was trying to pull up, was just this picture. This painting and this painting both follow the golden ratio.
Okay, on our screen, we're still looking at your search results.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that...
Yeah, it wouldn't let me do that. Let's see. This one, maybe? If I click on that. Nope. Okay. So yeah, like this. Can you see this?
I can see it.
Okay, the golden ratio starts here and works its way out, and everything falls into that arc. The same with the Mona Lisa.
Okay.
Right? The same with the side of the human face.
Wow.
Right? The same as somebody playing on a keyboard all day. Which that picture instantly made me fix my posture. But even in like art, like the Apple logo follows the golden ratio. The Twitter logo, where it used to be Twitter, follows the golden ratio. Butterflies follow the golden ratio. I can't fully explain to you why we are drawn to it. But I mean, like, see how that's a great example right there. See how, like, if it doesn't fall into the golden ratio, how wild it gets and how just weird it is. So that being said, that's why all these pyramids are similar, is because one, architecturally speaking, a pyramid is strong as hell.
Right.
2, symmetry falls in the golden ratio. Thirds. Everything's, when you start making a big door and 2 windows, the big door should be a third larger than the 2 windows, which is exactly what you had. That's how symmetry works. Like everything's split down the middle of mirrors of it, and we just like it when we see it. And it's
okay.
I'm more in tune to it because I'm obsessed with symmetry.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense in your line of work. I mean, you kind of I can't see that ever being a setback. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I know there were certain vehicles that came out in the 2000s that were asymmetrical on the back, and I would actually change lanes and go around just to get away from it.
Couldn't stand it.
Because it was unnerving
totally
to me.
Get it.
Yeah. Completely unnerving to me.
I understand that. That's why I don't look at fencing when I go past. Yeah, my brain goes absolutely insane when I put fencing in. It's ridiculous. Like if there's a T-post out of whack, I pull it and I move it. It's like I can't stand it.
Right.
But yeah, that's really that is really fucking interesting. I'd never heard of that before. God damn. I wonder if the folks like that are watching this right now, I wonder if they go, "Huh, I'll be damned." You know what I mean? Tyler, did you know anything about this stuff?
I've heard of it, but I've never took the time. Like, I didn't know it was actually that big of a thing.
This is literally me.
So
Yeah.
there you go. Here's some more examples of it, because it's like I said, it's not just in the pyramids. I mean, the Taj Mahal follows the golden ratio.
Wow.
You know, um, that's the Notre Dame, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that follows the golden ratio.
Here's a question for you.
Hmm.
Do you think that the golden ratio is universal? Like, do you think this is something that might occur throughout the universe, or is it just like, kind of affixed here on our planet with us as a species? Like, this is species central, not, you know what I mean?
My guess is
Yeah.
that it exists completely outside of our species. Because the galaxy follows
Holy shit, dude.
the
Wow.
golden ratio.
I don't know how I didn't piece that one together at all. Wow. So this is like literally a universal thing.
Yes. Yeah.
That is mind blowing.
The world lives by the golden ratio.
Now, okay, I have to. There's just no way I cannot mention this one. Okay, if this is a universal thing, all right, it looks like it is. I mean, to me, it looks like blueprints. Like, okay, here's the universe. Here is how this is going to lay out. Everything will follow this. So, how do we like? How do you argue this? Like, what would it be? Would this have been included in the planning, or would this just be a happenstance thing that just happened? Because it almost seems too perfect to be random.
Right.
That, and I've told people this before, like, look, if you believe in creators and all that stuff, I respect it. I'm on the fence. I think maybe something could have put it together. I just have a hard time thinking that it stuck around and that it gives a shit. That's my whole issue. It's nothing else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Just
when I see stuff like that,
I want you to know one thing, though, that this may or may not help.
Sure.
As far as aliens go,
Yeah.
the only one that I found that fits is the xenomorph. So I don't know if that helps or not.
That's I don't think that's a good one. That's not a good one to.
Right.
I don't feel like that's a
You could just say that they designed it around that too.
I mean, if you look at pictures of aliens, if an alien doesn't fit the golden ratio,
then it probably doesn't exist.
or did it make it?
Mm.
You know what I mean? Creating a system that you're not really a part of is kind of a
What if the golden ratio is what's behind all of like the religious, all the different religions where they say, the gods have us in their own likeness?
Yeah.
What if the golden ratio is what is meant by that?
That'd be what I could accept it. Like, I would be okay with it.
Right. I mean,
like,
the golden ratio might be God.
It could. That's always been a thing too, is that what if there is some kind of creation, power that created things, but what if it operates on a different thing? Like, it's not coming to give you, the winning lottery numbers. What if its sole design, its sole purpose is to just create? You know what I mean? It would sure answer a lot of things for me personally. I don't know about how you guys feel about that, but I see a universal thing like this that just exists everywhere, and I can't help but go, wow. Compound that with the what is it? All of the different types of electrons, protons, neutrons, things like that are all quantized. They're all pre-programmed to do what they do. That's startling, in my opinion.
Right.
Because that's, anything that's been quantized or programmed, that falls into the fine tuning theory. And the fine tuning theory is I mean, I know most religion isn't happy with the fine tuning theory because they don't like the implications of it, but it technically does argue for the existence of a powerful force that made things happen. You know,
Now, how strange would it be if the powerful force was a mathematical equation?
I think it would make total sense. I mean, that's like a universal language, right?
Right.
So, I mean, in my opinion, that would be, I could accept that as an answer if they came to me and said, this is what it was. This was, it was a mathematical equation, rooted in, the golden ratio. And somehow it quantized everything to do everything that it does. And the sole purpose is to create.
Yeah.
But then in that, I would still have another question to ask. Who put the pen to paper? What put the pen to paper on this? Who worked it out? Did it just happen? Is it possible for it to just happen? It's like one of those infinite questions that's like, it's self-defeating because of its size. I feel like you'd just be chasing your tail forever on that one.
Right.
Which incidentally, chasing your tail would kind of resemble the ratio, I think.
Right.
Yeah. Fascinating, man. Wow. I think I'm going to be thinking about this shit all day now.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It basically falls under, your rule of thirds. So if you draw a square or a rectangle rather, and you split it into 2/3, 1/3, and then you split that into 2/3, 1/3, and then that into 2/3, 1/3, and you start drawing your spiral to catch all your points, that's your golden ratio. And that's what creates it. And then you can just start putting that over top of things. So you adjust your square to fit over whatever it is, and voila, it fits.
That's incredible. And at all these pyramids, these structures, these amazing just architectural achievements of prehistory, basically, all follow this universal rule that's still being followed today. And that's mind-blowing to me. Like, I don't feel like I'm smart enough for this. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't feel smart enough for it. Like, it makes me feel small.
Right. Like, it makes me feel small too. And like, the only reason I even have the slightest amount of context for it is because of construction, because I see it,
Yeah.
I see, because a lot of times when they don't know what to do on something, they ask, well, why don't you guys just do that?
Yeah.
And it's really unnerving because then it's like, oh, great. If I design something, what if they don't like it? Then I got to build it again.
Yeah.
Let's see here. If I can save this image. This image right here is and that's a PNG. I can't do that. Crap.
It's weird talking about this stuff, especially like this, the implication that the golden ratio could be some kind of like universal code for creation. And yet I read a metaphor about a powerful creative force that happened to be a carpenter.
Right.
Weird. Somebody actually was a builder, So I've always suspected that a lot of these ancient texts were code for something, or maybe them trying to describe things that they were seeing and that they were experiencing, in a way that would make sense. But I don't know. It's fascinating.
Here we go. I've got one that I can show. I can make it big and make it explained. The Parthenon. All right.
Oh, wow.
There you go. So that gives you an exact example of the golden ratio of how it works. Now, I wish you guys could see my mouse, but if you look, the smaller portion of the thirds to the left of the screen, you notice how the cornice band that goes directly above the columns.
Yeah.
Right. That fits into that third damn near perfectly.
Right. Yeah.
And then the decorative piece that goes right across that it's almost like dental mold that runs across the top of that, falls directly into that as well. Right. Then you have your overhang, the eyebrow of the building, right, that hits directly at that point. Okay. And then from side to side, the large swoop goes all the way across, and it touches from the left of the building to the basically to the right of the building. You know, where if you ignore the overhangs on the sides, and then the crest at the top where the peak would have been, it hits the top part of that other third.
Okay.
So that's where the rule of thirds work on the golden ratio right there.
It's amazing.
Pretty wild, ain't it?
That is really wild. Yeah. For the sake of fun, Josh, and I know that you love this, I found this, and I'm going to throw it up here for you. I think you'll appreciate this.
Right?
Yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Right.
Mind blowing. Like I knew nothing about this, so it's incredible to me.
I fucking love when I get to teach you something.
Oh, it's fucking awesome.
Dude, you're a great student because you're like, oh, tell me more.
Oh yeah, dude. Like I knew nothing about this. I know my wife's a photographer, so she constantly talks about the rule of thirds. And whenever she gives me a camera, she says I have a tendency to always do the rule of thirds.
Right.
And it's just because I like the way it looks. I like the way the rule of thirds looks when you're taking pictures and stuff. She's like, well, you always do the rule of thirds every time you take a picture. She's like, yeah, I don't think you can help it. I think you're drawn to it. So I'd heard the rule of thirds. I just never heard the golden ratio before. That's why it's interesting to me. And the fact that so many things that you've shown us with all these designs fit it so perfectly is mind blowing to me. So, yeah. And I'm a monster when it comes to learning shit. Like I can't stop once it starts. I have to understand.
I've got another one for you, and this is really wild.
Wow. The only question I would have on this one is that does that occur no matter where you stand? Like, does that fit? I mean, I guess it would, right? You could adjust that ratio no matter where you were standing when you took that shot, right?
I would think so. Yeah. The further out you get, the further everything gets away. It's not like, it's not like moving the Sphinx in and out,
Yeah. That's pretty wild. I mean, like if you did a side view of them together, I feel like they would fit still.
I bet they would. I bet if you laid it down, the Sphinx would fit in that golden spiral if it was laid down as well.
Yeah. That's wild. That's unbelievable.
Fucking cool stuff, man.
It really is, man.
There's people out there that think that the golden spiral or the golden ratio and all that's overrated and that it's forced perspective. But I mean, if it fits, it fits.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's overrated or doesn't make sense is moot because it just fits.
Yeah.
And so many of us appreciate things that just so happen to fall in that.
Right. Yeah.
That's probably why like things that are atypical, like your the uncanny valley stuff.
Oh yeah.
That's probably why that is so unsettling. Because it falls out.
Okay. And then we automatically are like mistrustful of it because it doesn't fit what our eyes or in our mind are wanting.
Right.
That's pretty wild. I have experienced human beings that gave me the uncanny valley feeling. And really? I know this sounds mean, and I don't mean to be, but yeah, I encountered a person. I can say with 100% certainty that person literally gave me the feeling that they were not human.
Right.
And it was so weird. And I think I told you guys about it. I don't want to slander somebody on the show or anything of the sort, but I think I've told you guys about it. It's been a couple years. So I but yeah, I've had that feeling before, the uncanny valley. I just didn't know what it was called at the time. I just know it gave me the creeps big time.
Right.
It was so weird, man. It was like I don't like what I would expect if you met a vampire, what it would feel like. Like your own like whatever interpreting your own feelings of meeting something that just didn't fit, you know, into that nice neat, whatever. But it was wild. I know we've let this one run on for a while. I have a story here that I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about. It was a suggestion from one of our listeners. And if you guys ever heard of this, because I'd never heard of it before, it is the Cursed Gravestone of Carl Pruitt, Pulaski County, Kentucky.
No.
All right. So I'm not going to claim to be an expert in this, having just learned about this recently myself. But let me kind of give you guys a little rundown and see what you think about this, because I think it's pretty wild. Okay. Happened in June 1938, Pulaski County, Kentucky. This guy Carl Pruitt. Now he had a reputation for being. He had a bad temper, put it that way, right? He was kind of a violent man, kind of a, easy to go off the handle. Apparently, or I'll say allegedly, he had arrived home one afternoon and found his wife in bed with another man. Now, you could probably put two and two together, right? And say that something bad happened. Let me take you through that. Carl, he didn't just, pull a pistol and whatever. He took a chain and he wrapped it around his wife's neck and he strangled her to death with it. All right. Moments after he was done, he did pull his pistol and he shot himself in the head. Now, the other man in this, he escaped out of a window just in time. So he got away. All right. So once Carl knew that he'd done something terrible, he took his own life. Okay. So it goes on a little bit here. Apparently, after this was all said and done, his wife's parents, they refused to have him laid to rest next to his wife, next to their daughter, right? So they had him buried as far away as they could in a completely different cemetery, right? According to the legends, though, Carl's temper was not done, and he never did get laid to rest. So basically, people have noticed around the gravesite what it looks like chains burned into the ground in the grass, like the pattern of the chain. And this is a reoccurring thing people have seen over time or whatever. Okay, so this takes us to another part of the story. Man named James Collin. Okay. Okay, so there was a group of children that were being led by Mr. James Collin, had accused each other of being scared of the gravestone of the man in question here, right? So I guess what had happened was they'd even accused James or whatever. He denied it, that he was afraid, and he even threw rocks at the grave to prove that he wasn't scared, right? Okay, so one of the stones had hit the gravestone and it broke a piece off. Nothing happened, and these kids and everybody kind of just jumped on their bicycles and ran off or rode off, right?
All right.
So what happened next is kind of weird, okay? This man James, in a freak accident, the chain on his bike had snapped, flipped his bike over with him on it. When everybody got to him to see if he was okay, he was dead. The bike chain snapped and wrapped around his neck, strangling him to death.
What the fuck?
Right? Yeah. Okay, so when they, the boys, they told everybody what they were doing, what had happened, that he took them to the gravestone. They saw the chip or whatever. That's the other thing is later on, the broken off piece of the gravestone wasn't there anymore. The gravestone was intact. All right. So James's mother believed the boys and she sought revenge against the spirit of Carl. She took an axe herself and she smashed the gravestone into pieces. She was satisfied with her efforts. Once she was satisfied with her efforts, she left the cemetery, and that was literally the last time anybody had ever seen her alive. She was found the next day, strangled to death from a clothesline where she accidentally tripped and entangled herself in it. A lot of people believe that this is the spirit of Carl Pruitt, and when he, basically what he'd found, when he'd found his gravestone to be desecrated, he sought revenge. This goes on and on. All right. Now I realize that there are synchronicities that could pile up on certain things. I've got a great list of them for you guys on a future show. I'm not ready to announce anything yet, though. I can't help but wonder how many of these legends are embellished, or if it's just synchronicities that just seem to line up. If in fact, and I plan on digging more into this, if in fact I find that each one of these persons did die the way it says, that's going to be interesting. I'll say that. If they really did all strangle to death, because like I said, I know our show's running a bit long right now, so I didn't want to go into this. I have a list as long as my arm of things that have happened in this county since this. So what I want to do is I want to go forward and research every one of these and see if I can figure out if this is for real or if it's bullshit. But I wanted to show you guys like the tip of the story and see what you guys' impressions were,
I like it.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's right here in our own home state. I'm a little ashamed of myself.
Right. I've never heard of this before. So
yeah.
I was actually looking it up. And he's known as the Killer Ghost.
Yeah. Yeah, I read that.
That's awesome.
So I definitely want to do a big old shout out to our fan Ernie across the pond for pointing that out to us. I'm a little ashamed that he had to point it out to us.
Right.
But I'm glad he did because it's fascinating.
Before we end the show, I sent something to our private chat on Facebook. I want to make sure you snag that up and put it up here. So before we end.
All right. Let's see here. Let me grab it. Oh, wow. Okay. That's a good way to go out.
Yep.
All right, cool. Let me stick this up here. Tyler's going to crack up unless he's already looked at it.
He's already looked at it.
See if I grab the right thing here. Yep. All right. Well, we're going to end with this, guys. Hopefully I find some more interesting stuff about Mr. Carl Pruitt. And I've definitely learned a lot in this one, I will admit. So y'all take care of each other out there, and I'm going to show you this. So we'll see you on the next one.
See you guys. That's fucking great. Dude, I didn't even have to size it. I just popped it on there and it was like, are you shitting me?
That's so cool. Wow. We fit in the golden ratio.
Yep.